There's something wrong with this cartoon. At first, nobody noticed it. It aired late at night in the late 90s on a tiny local station most people barely remember. Cheap animation, bad voice acting, weird music. Just another forgotten children's show. But years later, people started rewatching old VHS recordings online, and they began noticing disturbing details hidden inside the episodes. Things that shouldn't have been there. Faces in the background, missing frames, messages hidden inside static, and one character who slowly changes every single episode. The cartoon was called Happy Harbor, a low-budget animated show from 1998 featuring 4 children solving problems in a colorful seaside town. Most episodes were normal: fishing contests, treasure hunts, birthday parties. But viewers remembered one thing differently: the background characters. Because no matter what happened in the scene, they never blinked. Not once. Even during bright daytime scenes, their eyes looked completely black. At first, people assumed it was just bad animation, until someone slowed the footage down frame by frame and discovered the background characters weren't static drawings. They were changing very slowly, almost too slowly to notice. In 2016, The Chaz, an online horror forum, uploaded restored footage from episode 4. That's when people noticed the hidden frames. Every few minutes, single images appeared between scenes. Too fast for normal playback. Distorted photographs, dark hallways, children standing in empty rooms. One frame reportedly showed a man staring directly into the camera with the words, "Don't let them see you." But the strangest discovery came from episode 7. Because hidden for less than half a second, was footage of a real house, not animated, real, and according to online users, that house matched an abandoned property outside Millfield County. A house linked to a missing persons case from 1994. But things became much worse when viewers started noticing changes happening outside the cartoon itself. Because after watching certain episodes, people claimed their televisions started behaving strangely at night. People reported hearing audio from the cartoon even when their TVs were turned off. Low whispering, faint laughter, music playing inside empty rooms. One archived forum post described a child waking up at 3:12 a.m. every night, claiming cartoon characters were standing beside the television, watching him sleep. People reported hearing audio from the cartoon even when their TVs were turned off. Low whispering, faint laughter, music playing inside empty rooms. One archived forum post described a child waking up at 3:12 a.m. every night, claiming cartoon characters were standing beside the television, watching him sleep. Then came the signal interruptions. Old VHS recordings began showing footage that wasn't originally part of the episodes. Emergency alerts, numbers flashing on screen, distorted faces hidden in static. And in one infamous upload, the main cartoon character suddenly stopped mid-sentence, turned toward the audience, and whispered, "You're not supposed to pause here." Then came the signal interruptions. Old VHS recordings began showing footage that wasn't originally part of the episodes. Emergency alerts, numbers flashing on screen, distorted faces hidden in static. And in one infamous upload, the main cartoon character suddenly stopped mid-sentence, turned toward the audience, and whispered, "You're not supposed to pause here." But the final unaired episode is where the cartoon completely breaks apart. And it's the reason many people believe the creators were hiding something inside the tapes intentionally. The final episode was never officially broadcast. At least, that's what the station claimed. But VHS recordings still appeared online years later. The episode begins normally. Bright music, sunny skies, the characters preparing for a town festival. Then suddenly, the colors disappear. Everything becomes gray. The soundtrack slows down unnaturally, and every background character begins staring directly at the viewer, completely motionless. Ella slowly walks toward the screen. Not animated walking, real walking, as if someone filmed a child moving frame by frame. Then he asks, "Why did you keep watching us?" Ella slowly walks toward the screen. Not animated walking, real walking, as if someone filmed a child moving frame by frame. Then he asks, "Why did you keep watching us?" In 2022, urban explorers entered the abandoned animation studio connected to the cartoon. Inside, they discovered hundreds of damaged tapes stacked floor to ceiling. Most were blank. Others contained distorted fragments of unfinished animation. But one room was different. A sealed editing room hidden behind false walls. Inside, they found old CRT monitors still running static, even though the building had no electricity. And beside the monitors sat dozens of photographs, children, families, televisions, all with their faces scratched out. But the most disturbing discovery was a handwritten note taped beside the editing equipment. It simply read, "They start copying the viewers." Today, only fragments of Happy Harbor still exist online. Most uploads disappear quickly, others become corrupted after a few days, but every version still contains the same final frame. A close-up of Ellis staring directly into the camera, smiling, then whispering, "You brought us back again." Today, only fragments of Happy Harbor still exist online. Most uploads disappear quickly, others become corrupted after a few days, but every version still contains the same final frame. A close-up of Ellis staring directly into the camera, smiling, then whispering, "You brought us back again." The drawing looked old. The paper was yellowed. The edges were torn, as if it had been sitting somewhere for years. Yet the tape holding it to the floor looked brand new. The man picks it up. His breathing becomes noticeably heavier. Because beneath the drawing, someone had written a message in black marker, 3 simple words. "He saw you." The recording ends only seconds later. No explanation, no follow-up, no update from the uploader. The account was abandoned shortly afterward. And strangely, the original video can no longer be found. Only re-uploads remain. Copies of copies. Compressed versions passed around horror forums for years. But that's not the part people remember. What they remember is something discovered much later. During a frame-by-frame analysis of the footage, researchers noticed that for less than a second, something appears at the end of the hallway. A dark shape, tall motionless, standing where the darkness begins. Most viewers never notice it. The frame passes too quickly, but once highlighted, it's impossible to ignore. The figure isn't visible when the door first opens. It appears only after the camera points downward toward the drawing, as if something entered the hallway while the man wasn't looking. Or worse, as if it had already been there, hidden in the darkness, watching. The strangest detail, however, comes from the television static, heard at the beginning of the recording. Audio engineers who examined the file claimed faint sounds could be heard buried beneath the noise. At first it sounded like random interference. But after enhancing the recording, some listeners believe they heard a voice, a child's voice, soft, almost whispering, repeating the same sentence over and over again. Not loudly, not clearly, just enough to make your brain question what you're hearing. A single phrase hidden beneath the static. Don't let him out. And then the recording cuts to silence. No one heard from the uploader again. 2 days later, the account disappeared. Not deleted, not banned, just gone. Users searching for the profile were met with error messages and blank pages. Even stranger, forum members claimed the account had remained active during those 2 days. Several people reported receiving direct messages from it. Short messages, single sentences, never explanations, never replies. One user claimed the final message simply read, "Did you hear the knocking too?" After that, silence. The account vanished. Attempts to recover archived versions of the profile revealed almost nothing. Most posts had been wiped. Comments disappeared. Links led nowhere. It was as if someone had carefully removed every trace of its existence. Everything except the video. The recording survived. Copied and re-uploaded by dozens of users before the account disappeared. And according to some viewers, the footage changes slightly depending on which copy you watch. Most likely compression errors, at least that's the logical explanation. Yet people continue to compare versions, searching frame by frame, looking for differences, looking for answers, looking for the shadow standing at the end of the hallway, the one that wasn't there when the camera first started recording. One story came from a former editing assistant who allegedly worked on the series during its final production cycle. According to archived posts, the strange incidents started small. A character would appear in a frame where they weren't supposed to be. An object would move a few inches between scenes. Nothing impossible. Nothing that couldn't be explained away as a simple production mistake. But the errors became harder to ignore. Animators reportedly discovered completed frames stored on studio servers that nobody remembered creating. Entire sequences appeared overnight, already rendered, already edited, as if someone had finished the work while the building was empty. Management blamed software corruption, hard drive failures, lost production notes. Yet the unexplained footage continued to grow. One animator allegedly described a scene showing Ellis standing alone at the harbor after sunset. No dialogue, no music, no movement. Just Ellis staring directly at the viewer for nearly 2 minutes. The scene wasn't listed in any storyboard. It wasn't approved by producers. And according to the story, it had never been animated by anyone on the team. When editors attempted to delete the sequence, the files would reappear during the next backup cycle, again and again, always with the same timestamp, 3:13 a.m., the exact same time referenced in several viewer reports years later. Eventually, rumors spread throughout the studio. employees began refusing to stay after dark. Some claimed they could hear cartoon audio playing from empty editing rooms. Others reported seeing figures reflected in powered-off monitors, figures that vanished the moment they turned around. Whether any of these stories are true remains impossible to verify. The studio shut down shortly after production ended. Most records disappeared. Most employees never spoke publicly. But one rumor survived longer than all the others. A rumor claiming that the final unreleased episode was never completed. Not because production ran out of money, not because the network canceled the show, but because nobody could explain where the footage was coming from. The footage wasn't supposed to exist, at least according to the story. The technician claimed the hidden layer could only be seen when the master reels were slowed to a specific playback speed. Normal viewing revealed nothing unusual, just animation, just another children's cartoon. But beneath the cartoon, another recording was waiting, a second image hidden inside the tape. The alleged footage showed dimly lit rooms filmed on grainy analog cameras. No decorations, no windows, no indication of where the recordings had been made. Only rows of old CRT televisions glowing in the darkness, and children sitting perfectly still, watching static. None of them spoke, none of them moved. Some appeared to be staring directly at screens that displayed nothing but snow and interference. Others seemed focused on something just outside the camera's view. According to the rumor, the technician initially believed the footage had been accidentally recorded over the animation during production. A simple mistake. An old tape reused by the studio. But the deeper he examined the recordings, the stranger they became. The children never blinked, not once. Minutes of footage passed without visible movement, without shifting posture, without looking away, as though they had been frozen in place. Then he noticed something else. Every television in every room displayed the same brief image hidden inside the static. A single frame, appearing for less than a second. A smiling cartoon harbor. The exact same harbor featured in Happy Harbor. The technician reportedly copied several clips for further analysis, but when he reviewed them the following day, the files were corrupted, unreadable. The backups had vanished, and the original hidden layer could no longer be found on the master reels. Within a week, he resigned. Before leaving, he allegedly told another employee something that would later spread across internet forums, a warning repeated by viewers for years afterward. If you ever find the hidden footage, don't pause the static, because according to him, that's when the figures begin to move. But the most disturbing part of the mystery was hidden inside the audio itself. Because when investigators reversed the soundtrack, they discovered something horrifying underneath the cartoon music. At first, it sounded like meaningless noise, static, distortion, fragments of damaged tape. But after isolating the frequencies and slowing the recording down, a pattern began to emerge. Faint voices, dozens of them, layered on top of one another, too distorted to fully understand. Yet certain words appeared again and again. Whispers buried beneath the cheerful theme song. Some listeners believed the voices were saying names. Others claimed they were hearing warnings. Phrases spoken so quietly, they seemed to disappear into the static. The most unsettling discovery came from the final recovered recording. Near the end of the reversed audio, the overlapping voices suddenly stop. For nearly 5 seconds, only silence remains. Then a single voice speaks clearly, calm, slow, deliberate, not distorted, not hidden, as if it wanted to be heard. According to those who analyzed the tape, the voice says only one sentence, a sentence that has become inseparable from the legend of Happy Harbor. "We know you're watching too." And immediately afterward, the tape cuts to static. Audio experts examining restored VHS recordings noticed strange frequency spikes hidden throughout the episodes. At normal speed, they sounded like harmless static, but reversed. Voices could be heard beneath the soundtrack, whispering, crying, children repeating the same sentence over and over again. "Don't turn it off." At first, researchers assumed the voices were the result of audio bleed, a common problem found in aging VHS tapes. Old recordings sometimes overlap. Fragments of unrelated broadcasts can accidentally become embedded within the signal. But that explanation quickly fell apart, because the voices appeared on multiple copies of the tape. Different recordings, different owners, different countries. Yet the same hidden phrase remained. Always in the same locations, always beneath the same scenes. The phenomenon became even stranger when analysts mapped the frequency spikes across every recovered episode. The spikes weren't random. They formed a repeating pattern. A pattern that appeared to correspond with specific frames hidden inside the cartoon. Frames containing the shadow figure seen throughout the series. Every time the figure appeared, the audio frequencies changed, as if the soundtrack itself was reacting to its presence. One investigator reportedly enhanced a particularly damaged section of tape. The results were unsettling. For several seconds, the children's voices abruptly stop. The crying disappears. The whispers fade. Then a new voice emerges from beneath the static. Deeper, older, calm. Unlike the others, it doesn't sound frightened. It sounds as though it's speaking directly to whoever is listening. Most versions of the recording are too damaged to understand clearly. But according to those who studied it, the final words sound disturbingly close to a warning. Not from the children, but to them. A voice hidden beneath decades of tape hiss and interference. A voice quietly saying, "Keep watching." And immediately afterwards, the frequency spikes vanish completely, as if whatever was hiding inside the recording had finally finished speaking. Some of those accounts lasted only a few hours before disappearing. Others remained online for years without posting a single comment. No descriptions, no explanations, just the tapes. Always the tapes. Researchers attempting to track the uploads discovered another strange pattern. Many of the accounts were created within minutes of each other, despite originating from different countries. Different IP addresses, different platforms. Yet they all shared the same behavior: upload, disappear, repeat. One archived thread claimed a user managed to contact one of the accounts before it vanished. Only one reply was ever received. A message consisting of a single sentence, no greeting, no username, no signature. Just 6 words. "You were supposed to find it." The account disappeared less than an hour later. Whether the message was genuine or part of the growing legend remains unknown. But stories like that only fueled the mystery. Because every time the footage seemed ready to disappear forever, another copy surfaced somewhere else. Another upload, another account, another tape. As if someone or something was determined to keep Happy Harbor from being forgotten. The static grows louder as the camera moves deeper into the house. Not television static. Something else. A low mechanical hum hidden beneath the noise, almost like hundreds of voices trying to speak at once. The man continues forward, room after room, televisions everywhere, balanced on shelves, stacked in corners, mounted against walls that can barely support their weight. Every screen displays the same storm of black and white interference, yet something feels wrong. The static isn't random, it appears synchronized, moving in identical patterns across every television in the house. Then the camera enters what appears to be the living room, and suddenly, the static changes. For less than a second, every screen flashes the same image. A smiling cartoon harbor, bright, colorful, completely out of place inside the dark house. The cameraman freezes, his breathing becomes frantic, the image vanishes, static returns. But now the televisions are making a new sound, a faint knocking. 3 knocks, repeated over and over through every speaker in the room. Knock, knock, knock. The camera slowly pans across the wall of screens, and that's when viewers notice something terrifying. Hidden within the reflections of the CRT glass, someone appears to be standing behind the cameraman. A tall silhouette, motionless, watching. The figure doesn't appear in the room itself, only in the reflections, only on the televisions. As the cameraman turns around, expecting to find someone there, the footage abruptly glitches. Frames tear apart. Audio distorts. The image collapses into static. For nearly 20 seconds, nothing can be seen. Then the recording returns one final time. The camera is lying on the floor, pointing toward the far end of the room. The televisions are no longer displaying static. Every screen now shows the same image. Ellis, standing motionless, looking directly into the camera, smiling. And just before the video ends, all of the televisions switch off at the exact same moment, leaving only darkness. Then the footage becomes even stranger. On one television, viewers noticed a hallway that doesn't appear anywhere else in the house. A long, dark corridor stretching into complete darkness. The cameraman stops, because on the screen, something moves. A shadow crossing the end of the hallway. Not in the room, not behind him, inside the television. The figure pauses for a moment, then slowly turns toward the camera, then toward whoever is watching. At the exact same time, several other screens begin displaying the same corridor, the same darkness, the same figure, standing closer now, frame by frame, screen by screen, approaching. The cameraman begins backing away, breathing heavily, but the televisions continue updating, showing events seconds before they happen, as if the house already knows where he's going, as if something inside the screens is waiting for him to arrive. Ellis tries to step back, but his legs refuse to move. The hallway air turns freezing, carrying the sharp, metallic tang of ozone and dust. The child tilts his head. The movement is too smooth, almost mechanical. Slowly, the boy extends a thin arm, offering the heavy cassette. At the far end of the hall, the gray static clears. A cheerful, distorted jingle echoes through the empty corridors. Twisted, cartoonish letters bleed onto the cracked glass. "Welcome home, Ellis. It's your turn to watch," the boy whispers. His voice doesn't come from his mouth, but directly from the television speakers. The upload cuts to black immediately afterward. No credits, no explanation, no source, But viewers noticed one final detail hidden in the last frame, a reflection inside the television screen. For less than half a second, someone appears standing behind the cameraman, smiling directly at the viewer. The image is so brief that most people never see it. You have to pause the footage at exactly the right moment, frame by frame. The figure appears human, but something about it feels wrong. The proportions seem distorted. The smile stretches too wide. The eyes appear completely dark. No pupils, no reflection. Just empty shadows staring from the screen. What makes the frame truly unsettling is that the figure isn't looking at the cameraman. It isn't looking at the television. It's looking straight through the image, straight through the screen, as though it knows someone is watching from the other side. And just before the video cuts out completely, the reflection appears to move one single step forward. If you enjoy analog horror, disturbing cartoons, lost VHS tapes, and recovered broadcasts, subscribe for more weekly horror uploads from Chilling Stories at Midnight. And remember, if a cartoon feels wrong, pause it carefully